so the press could take photos, and Julia HB1s of the world could mock the idea that they were being maltreated. A Jewish policeman in the Theresienstadt ghetto. This is from the Holocaust Museum. Okay, photograph of a Jewish policeman taken on an international Red Cross visit to the Theresienstadt ghetto. The SS deceived the delegation into believing that the ghetto was a self-administered Jewish settlement. Czechoslovakia, June 23rd, 1944. Elaborate measures were taken to disguise conditions of the ghetto and to portray an atmosphere of normalcy. The SS engaged the Council of Jewish Elders and the camp ghetto residents in a beautification program. Prisoners planted gardens, painted housing complexes, renovated barracks, and developed and practiced cultural programs for the entertainment of the visiting dignitaries to convince them that the senior settlement was real. The SS authorities intensified deportations of Jews from the ghetto to alleviate overcrowding. And as a part of the preparations of the camp ghetto, 7,503 people were deported to Auschwitz between May 16th and May 18th, 1944. On June 23rd, 1944, as planned, 2 delegates from the International Red Cross and 1 from the Danish Red Cross visited the ghetto, accompanied by Theresienstadt Commandant SS First Lieutenant Karl Rahm and one of his deputies. The facility had been cleaned up and rearranged as a model village. Hints that all was not well include a bruise under the eye of the mayor, in air quotes, of the ghetto. They understood it was fucked up. They understood it was fucked up, and they had to, do a little bit of massaging of the narrative. Make no mistake, if you think that the Nazis were like purely oblivious, or people around them were purely oblivious to the fucking evils of their actions, is not true. They knew, and they knew that they needed to propagandize. They fucking knew. The craziest situation here is that most people back then didn't know the full extent of the death and destruction in the Holocaust. Okay? They did not know. We found out only after the camps were liberated. There was evidence to the atrocities, intelligence, like British intelligence had an idea, but some people didn't believe it, and some people turned a blind eye to it. The Germans knew. Germans living around the camps knew, for sure. They turned a blind eye to it, But I'm talking about the rest of the planet, the rest of the globe. Like America, we have this weird attitude about World War II because of like all of the pro-America propaganda that came after World War II. That makes it seem as though like Americans knew that the concentration camps were taking place, and that's why we like joined the battle or whatever. No, that's not the reason. That's not the reason at all. No, that wasn't the reason why America joined. Shouts out to FDR, by the way. I mean, he did his own concentration camps with the Japanese, but like he was on board with it. He was with it. And Pearl Harbor was like at least enough of a reason for the rest of America to get on board with this military action. But in the absence of Pearl Harbor, which was only triggered by FDR's push to deny oil and petrol to the Japanese for harming our colonial endeavors in the region, in the Pacific Campaign, this would not have. The Americans were not on board with getting involved in World War II at all. Didn't America have a pro-Nazi movement before Pearl Harbor? Yes, of course. Where do you, the Madison Square Garden Nazi rally comes to mind. Anyway, yeah. The German-American Bund was making major pushes. Germany itself, just like Israel, Germany itself literally was trying to do remigration of German Americans back to the fatherland. And some American Germans actually did take that offer up. Because what Israel's ambitions are identical to the Nazi German ambitions, creating living space, additional living space for the German race. Yeah, watch Band of Brothers. It's great. It describes everything, top to bottom. It's so perfect. And it's also very entertaining to watch as well. It's a fucking great TV series. One of the best TV series of all time. Sometimes I have to balance it out, though, because you become too pro-America all of a sudden, Yeah, here's the Nazi scene.
Morning, sir. Italian sure will be happy to see you guys. Where? At the farm, sir.
Top of the morning to you fellas. Enjoying the war?
Where are you from, son? Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene? You gotta be kidding me. Popeye, did you hear this? I'm from Astoria.
You don't say.
Yeah. Orange Street. What gives? What are you doing in a Kraut uniform?
Volksdeutsche.
Come again?
My family answered the call. All true Aryans should return to the fatherland. Join up in 41.
You're shitting me, right?
Hey, Malachi! Stop fraternizing with the enemy! Get over here!
What got you to Eugene?
I was born in Eugene.
Yep. Anyway, he gets a different fate. They lived in the same town in real life, but the writers toned it down because they thought that would be unbelievable. Yeah. What happens next will shock you. Yeah. The scene you can't see at the end of this scene is a very famous part of the... Just go watch it, okay? It's great. It's so fucking sick. High-key cringe behavior, not gonna lie. What, joining the fucking Volksdeutsche call to arms? And in 1941, going back to Nazi Germany to take up arms alongside the Nazis is cringe. I agree. Just like American Jews being like, oh, I gotta go to Israel, the fucking fatherland, and join the Israeli occupying force. Kind of cringe. Kind of fucking cringe. The only difference, of course, is that, the the Nazi state was not entirely propped up by the American one, even though there was some financial ties, of course. And also, the atrocities were not unfolding in broad daylight, and the Americans took action against Nazi Germany alongside the Allied forces. And in this situation, we all know where the American government and its attitude is with Israel's damn near identical performance. Is it similar to how the U.S. citizens go join the IDF? It's identical to how the U.S. citizens go and join the IDF. What? Random Hasanabi name drop? Can't tell if it's a
Thank you so much for coming out.
Oh, I've seen this before. This is a fucking year. This is from a year ago, dude. All right, let's finish of this statement. Now, do you understand? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And why I was like critical about this? Which is like, Hamas is within international law. Depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about like what they're doing currently in defense of Palestinians, yes, absolutely, 100%. October 7, on the other hand, like, kidnapping is a no-no regardless, okay? Kidnapping is a no-no regardless. Taking prisoners of war is a little bit different. Israel's unique position as a belligerent occupier over the Gaza Strip as well makes this a unique position. It's not like black and white. Okay, that is more complex. As far as like killing civilians, that's black and white, unacceptable. Okay, 100%. Like October 7, there are, and this is something that I admit to. This is something that Norm Finkelstein also agrees on. There are atrocities that took place on October 7 in the hands of the Palestinian Resistance Group. Now, of course, when you look at the dynamic of Israel in its 75-year occupation at that time, you have to match the actions of the Palestinian resistance to the violence that has unfolded historically against Palestinians. But if you are simply asking, were there acts of terror that took place on October 7? Absolutely, 100%. Were there atrocities that took place on October 7? Absolutely, 100%. It's true. It did. But one must recognize where this violence comes from. If your answer to this is, well, it's because they are Jew haters and they did this because they hate Jews, they want to kill Jews, you're fucking stupid. And you're not interested in any sort of reasonable solution to this whatsoever, any sort of manageable, reasonable, moral solution to this whatsoever. Okay? That's it. And there are historic examples you can point to with like atrocities committed by resistance groups historically in an effort to advance a liberatory cause against a much more powerful colonial occupier or much more powerful entity engaging in chattel slavery, for example. Nat Turner Rebellion comes to mind, right? And in that regard, when you match it up with the much larger atrocity, no one considers the Nat Turner Rebellion as like as a bad thing overall. Everyone understands that it was incredibly violent. Babies being murdered in their cribs, right? Like that is an incredibly violent act. But it's an afterthought in the long 400-year history of chattel slavery and colonial exploitation and mass rapes and mass atrocities that unfolded. It's not even a consideration in the minds of regular historians. They don't consider it to be like this dramatic setback or something that could ever hold up to the systematized form of violence that black people experienced under chattel slavery. And I think when the dust settles, it will be a similar assessment here as well. It's impossible to look at it right now and feel that way. I understand that. But think about your opinion of Palestinian liberation and the Palestinian emancipatory movement now as opposed to in the month of October in 2023. Think about how much your position has changed. If in such a short period of time your position can make a dramatic reversal, as many of yours has, I think when, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, depending on how history has unfolded, you will look at it very differently. I mean, even the very fact that this interview is taking place in mainstream media is a yet another glaringly obvious example that the tide has shifted so dramatically. And I'm an advocate for people being more honest about it. Okay? I think people should be more honest about it. When they talk about these sorts of things, when they talk about, because this is the other side of this story. I'm not demanding that people come out and be like, I'm wearing the fucking Al-Qassam, Al-Aqsa flood banner on my head. Okay? That's not my argument. That's not what I think people should be doing. I don't think you should be saying like, oh, I love Hamas. Hamas is the greatest. Okay? But you should be honest. You should be honest about the scale of atrocities that took place on October 7 as opposed to the, now 80-year occupation or 78-year occupation. I think that's important. It's important to do, especially because Peter Beinart is a very knowledgeable person on this. That's why, oh shit, little F happened or is happening currently. Hold on. Another. Okay, we're back. All right. Anyway, my point is, someone like Peter Beinart is supposed to be on the cutting edge of this kind of commentary, and therefore there's no room for being like Hamas is a evil group that is just simply operating on evil. You can say Hamas has committed atrocities, is true, or the Palestinian resistance has committed atrocities on October 7. Is true. There are atrocities that took place on October 7. Okay? Well, that is true. It's still all but a mere blip in the 80-year occupation of Israel against the Palestinians.
Do exactly the opposite.
How, Peter?
I don't think Palestinian sovereignty should be met up with like the argument that I always don't like is like the argument that says Palestinian sovereignty is necessary for Israel's security. Okay? Like, if Israelis want security in the Jewish homeland, in the Jewish state, then they have to allow Palestinian sovereignty to exist, is not the appropriate argument, is not the right argument. Like, this should not be met up against it's a false dichotomy, okay? Like, you shouldn't want Palestinians to have sovereignty because you're terrified that they're going to otherwise come and kill you, okay? You should want Palestinians to have sovereignty for Palestinian dignity, for Palestinian humanity on its own. It's still offering credence to this underlying premise in this conversation that Palestinians are not human and that they're just like they're going to just be angry all the time and then, do violent stuff if we just don't like give them a state. Because who you're making that argument towards is the people that care about like Israeli security, Israeli safety, Israel being a Jewish state, a Jewish ethno state. And those motherfuckers don't care. They don't care. You're not going to be able to convince them logically. You just have to avoid talking to them altogether and apply pressure to more appropriate avenues. You know what I mean? The actual response to that argument, the Israeli safety and security argument. If Israel's safety and security is the primary focus here, then okay, the other side of that spectrum is genocide. And that is literally the argument that Israeli society is broadly fucking grabbed onto. Okay? He comes back to a really good point, though. This is, hold up, he's cooking. Hold up, his writing was this fire. He's right. This is the primary. This is the reason why I said Peter Beinart is good. I just wish he would be like more aggressive in his stance in terms of just like not even letting any sort of fucking counter to that, to this position, which is that, it's just, they're human beings. They're human beings that understandably want dignity, understandably want sovereignty. And because of that reason, Israel has to give this to them. And Israel has refused to give this to these people. Israel has dominated their lives every single day for the past fucking 80 plus years at this point. It's completely unacceptable. And of course, people are going to be resentful and angry and react in a way that is expected. In a way that is expected. Because what would you do in that situation? A question that many Israeli officials themselves have actually asked themselves and answered by saying they would join fucking Hamas or whatever terrorist group, in air quotes, whatever terrorist group exists. personal experience too, for the record. Like, so record rate of extermination is ongoing as an inevitable result. This Bibi's last act. Imagine revenge on Palestinians is scarily horrific. At the end of the day, Hamas does not have the luxury or ability to be good in the Western sense. It was not an option afforded to them by the U.S. or Israel. So are they evil? No, they simply just are. Yeah. Also, I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of understand why people don't. The very same people that would agree with like the domestic politics of Hamas, ironically enough, are the very same people that will say, Hassan, you're an Islamist fundamentalist. You want to throw like gay people off roofs, which Hamas doesn't do, by the way. But regardless, like the people who are homophobic will, instead of going, I wonder why Hassan, who is an advocate for like LGBTQ rights and a litany of different things that I'm not an advocate of, why is he immediately not critical of like Hamas's domestic policies? Because they are utterly irrelevant when they are existing under an occupying force such as Israel. Same goes for Hezbollah. Same goes for every sort of militancy. Same goes for the Ansar Allah movement, right? It's just completely irrelevant in the hierarchy of need for Palestinian existence or for the existence of anyone in the region that unfortunately happens to be Israel's neighbor. They have not had the time to just like sit around and be like, let's have our own civil rights movement. And the irony, of course, is that there were plenty of secular, socialist, Christian, Muslim advocates that were Western facing within the history of Palestinian liberation, within the history of Palestinian resistance. Israel killed all of them. And they killed them all. They killed them all aggressively in the same exact way that they're killing everyone right now. That's it. It's utterly irrelevant to the conversation. Israel did not kill Hassan Nasrallah because of his opinions on gay people. Israel killed him because of his opinion on Israeli imperialism, his opinion on Israel playing a formative role in America's imperialism. That's it. So I think this is a ultimately productive conversation, and it's clearly getting a lot of play. But look, maybe one day networks will interview Palestinians about Gaza. Look at that. Like, that's the top comment, which is true. They should. If I can interview a Palestinian teenager that is literally stuck in the Gaza Strip, that is experiencing genocide right now, Jon Stewart should be able to do so as well. That's why, I don't know. I say all the time, like, if your parents, if New York Times had been covering Israel's actions with truth in mind, these numbers would be very different. If all of mainstream media was covering what Israel's doing in the way that I have, okay, with accuracy, with an interest in showcasing the Palestinian side on the virtue of Palestinian humanity, this attitude would be even worse, okay? And I think mainstream media knows that, which is precisely the reason why they do a worse job of covering Israeli atrocities than even the Israeli media does. Okay? You barely talk about Israel, though? Are you joking? You're joking, right? That's a joke, I think. That's kind of funny that you're saying that. You're right. You're right, chatter. I famously don't. Lots of really good stuff here, but these numbers in particular should make people reevaluate how they think about Israel, Palestine, and Democratic primaries. Also note how Palestinian rights resonate more with voters than criticize the Israeli government. I said this over and over again, even before these polls came out. I told you that Zohran did not win in spite of his Palestinian position. Zohran's position on Palestine helped him win. Anyway, Two people involved in Michigan politics have said DSCC chair Gillibrand has privately encouraged donors to support Stevens. Party approval is at his lowest point in decades. And they think uncharismatic candidates bankrolled by insurance companies is going to fix it. Look at this.
Me and my family, we're Michiganders. Pop, it's very good. We've got some actually great pop companies in Michigan. If you've ever heard of Verner's, my dad likes to say that's the elixir to solve all.
I yield the gentlelady 30 additional seconds.
The gentlewoman is recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Cause of their servitude, sharing in the profession with those who have not come before you. Similar times of trying medical need, wars and flus past. You will see darkness, you will be pushed, and our society needs you. To stand together at this time, our country loves you. To our doctors and our nurses, I wear these latex
The gentlelady's time has.
Clearly, they're panicking. She only brought in 1.4 million, 13% under 200 in the second quarter, despite all the insurance, corporate, and leadership packs. Abdul El Sayed, on the other hand, has 1.7 million. Mallory McMorrow, 2.1 million. I need to answer why this being on $10 million of NRSC ads isn't going to make her look absolutely unhinged among independent voters. Like, it's not happening. Yeah, also, yes, Zoran leads among Jewish voters, of course. Mamdani leads among Jewish voters, though there are clear dividing lines by age and denomination. Mamdani wins majority support among Reform, non-denominational, secular, non-practicing Jews, which is the overwhelming majority of Jews, by the way, especially under the age of 45. Cuomo wins a plurality of conservative Orthodox Jews, age 45 plus. I guess it's interesting to see. I guess it's interesting to see this this like mechanism of success happen in broad daylight in real time. With the Zoran Mamdani victory, I find it interesting, especially because it's so close to my commentary on the matter, and we're there.
I'll take some questions.
Here is a too little too late moment from Kid Starver himself, and then we're going to get into the other side of the story. Of course, we're going to get into Epstein stuff as well.
John.
Prime Minister, two issues here, obviously the aid and also the recognition of Palestine. First of all, on aid, what assurances did you receive from President Trump that he will use his influence with Prime Minister Netanyahu to allow the aid that you've talked about, the aid going in by trucks as well as by air? What assurance did you receive from him? He sounded as though when he talked about every ounce of food going in and you can't fake the pictures that we've seen on TV. Tell me about the reassurances you've heard, the promises, pledges from President Trump. And on the recognition issue, you do appear to have moved your position from as recently as last week, really, where you were talking about various other measures. I'm wondering what has influenced you into making what looks like a U-turn here on this issue? Is it pressure from the 250 or so MPs, most of whom are Labour? Is it pressure from inside your cabinet? We hear there are 7 cabinet ministers pressing you to push for recognising Palestine. Or is it President Macron, who of course lobbied you? He talked about it last Thursday about recognising the Palestine also at the UN General Assembly. And what difference?
I think the insidious part about what the UK and France is doing is that they're literally dangling Palestinian state recognition as this like threat against Israel when it's just the moral thing to do, and that should have done it a long ass fucking time ago. And they're only doing that because they recognize the depravity of the Israeli campaign so far that has turned into a genocide that they cannot avoid any longer. So the very fact that they just go, oh, well, we might actually recognize Palestine as a state as PR 22 months into a genocide is ridiculous. Like, you're saying that you're holding this as a talking point against the state of Israel. Just fucking do it, man. What are you waiting for? Not only that, but also the recognition of Palestine as a state is literally the bare minimum. What you should be doing is recognizing the evils of Israel and stop sending weapons to Israel. You should be stopping your spying missions that you do at the behest of the Israeli military objectives, which is a genocide. I am so fucking annoyed by this. Yeah. Starmer really said, if you don't scale back your genocide back to, let's say, normal, acceptable apartheid, then we'll recognize your victim's right to exist. How about that? That's precisely what it is. And it's a ridiculous fucking take. Are you going to deny the proud British tradition of financially aiding fascists? It's true. True. This is a British tradition. You say we started this process and we will see it through. As Lord Balfour declared, we will see it through. This is right. Who amongst us have not starved as a consequence of its settler colonial ambitions? Who amongst us has not starved a few indigenous people? What Israel is doing is continuing along with the proud British tradition. Yes, a bit of noncery and a bit of apartheid. Very nice. Yeah, this is somehow even more offensive. Palestinian people either get a state or they get to not be mass bombed every day. You get one. I will also say this. It's shocking that he's even worse than motherfucking Macron. Hold on. Okay. Because Macron didn't offer like additional conditions. He actually added the conditions into the recognition of Palestinian statehood, where he basically said it has to be a demilitarized state administered by the Palestinian Authority, which is a part of the Israeli security apparatus. So the very fact that Israel considers that to be a non-starter is also fucking ridiculous. But like, it's crazy that even Macron did not say, I will recognize Palestine unless you stop starving the Palestinians. He just said, I'm recognizing Palestine. I'm offering ridiculous conditions on recognition of the Palestinian state that render the point that I'm making irrelevant and stupid. Okay? But Keir Starmer, on the other hand, once again, outdoing Macron in his indecency, has decided by September we will recognize Palestine as a state unless you stop your starvation. If you do stop your starvation and bombing campaign and your genocide, then we won't recognize Palestine as a state. What are you doing? What are you saying? It's crazy.
Do you think actually recognising Palestine will actually make in practical terms?
Thank you for those questions. Firstly, on the question of aid, I won't go into the discussions I had with President Trump yesterday. We had a long session in private, and we discussed the situation in Gaza, and you heard the
as abhorrent as this is, it seems like an unprecedented move towards an otherwise untouchable Israel. Yes, on the one hand, I think this is too little too late. What the fuck are they doing? I can't believe they're still offering like weird conditions to it. On the other hand, even the very threat of France or the UK saying that they'll offer state recognition to Palestine is unprecedented, because that's how much clout and institutional control Israel gets to have. Okay, that's how much Israel is seen as like a non-starter.
The way the president then put it in the press conference that we held afterwards, and I think you could see for yourself his concern about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, as is my concern, because we've been saying for some considerable time now we need to get more aid in.
Yeah. It's kind of incredible that Keir Starmer managed to find a policy on this that would please literally nobody. UK to recognize state of Palestine in September unless Israel holds a ceasefire. Israel will be enraged and call him an anti-Semite. Palestinians will find it disgusting to make recognizing their rights a kind of bargaining chip And Starmer will pat himself on the back and say, well, if everyone's mad at you, you must be doing something right. One must not forget that Keir Starmer's rise to power within the Labour Party was directly related to the Israel lobby. For the record, the whole like rat fucking campaign of Jeremy Corbyn came from the Starmer aligned coalition within the Labour Party that used Israel and anti-Semitism and cynical weaponizations of allegations of anti-Semitism and sometimes even creation of actual anti-Semitic incidents within the Labour Party, specifically so they could fucking destroy Jeremy Corbyn because they were, one, worried about Jeremy Corbyn's position on Israel, which is the morally correct position, as history has vindicated him, but also because he was a socialist and this harmed potentially the interests of capital. So it was a win-win in that regard. Bro put on CNN. Why? What's on CNN? I don't know why I got one guy, but fuck it. Fuck it. We ball. Oh, Trump. Epstein stole young woman at Mar-a-Lago. I know. I'm going to get to that in a second. Don't worry. We're going to cover that in a second. Let's finish this
at
first.
Volume and at speed, and the situation now is absolutely catastrophic, which is why I've taken this decision today. In relation to the two-state solution and the recognition of Palestine, this has been long-standing Labour Party policy. It was in our manifesto. We talked about the right of the Palestinians to recognition, and we've always said that would be part of the process, and that it would be an important part of the point that we thought it would have maximum impact. It's driven today by two things. Firstly, the context in the intolerable situation in Gaza, which is getting worse by the day, but also because of the concern that the very possibility of a two-state solution is reducing, and therefore it is very important to be seen in that context as a very important contribution to what I hope will be an alleviation of the situation on the ground, because I'm acutely aware that what needs to happen urgently is that aid into Gaza at speed and at volume, and that ceasefire that can open the way for a political process. So this is a decision taken by this government in the context of today and after a meeting with my cabinet just earlier this afternoon. On the question of the difference it will make, the reason we have announced this in the way we have in relation to the General Assembly in September is precisely because I want to ensure that this plays a part in changing the conditions on the ground and making sure that that aid gets in.
Then you could have said you're going to recognize the state of Palestine. And on top of that, if Israel doesn't commit to a ceasefire and commit to aid going in to the Gaza Strip, then you will stop giving them weapons. And also, you should stop giving them weapons anyway. Then you will stop doing any sort of economic trade with the state of Israel. Yeah, breaking. End of mission for British spy flights over Gaza for Israel. Shadow R1, which has been flying daily over Gaza, is returning from RAF Akrotiri on Cyprus to RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire tonight. I have information showing this marks the end of the UK Spy for Israel program. 22 months, dude. 22 months. The Royal Air Force spied on Palestinians at the behest of Israel that played a formative role in Israel's genocidal campaign. Turkey W or Erdogan bullshit? Breaking. Turkey has officially endorsed the Hague Group's Bogota Declaration, becoming the first country to join since the July summit, 13th country overall. Ankara pledged to suspend arms exports to Israel, block Israeli weapons transit via airspace and ports, review public contracts tied to Israeli firms, support ICC arrest warrants in universal jurisdiction cases. Deputy Foreign Minister Nuh Yilmaz said Israel is inventing genocide in the 21st century and call for urgent humanitarian access and reconstruction. I mean, Yeah, Turkey has a lot of power here to actually stop Israel if it wanted to, if it truly was a real one. They could just shut off all energy to Israel. They could literally be like, no more energy, sorry. Netanyahu linked Israeli daily Israel Hayom calls for a plan to initiate war with Turkey over northern Cyprus. This is one of the many possible flashpoints for this looming conflict. Ankara's perspective, it'd be better to wait for U.S. inability/unwillingness to continue patronizing Israeli aggression. Oh, Israel Hayom. Northern Cyprus is also an Israeli problem. Oh my God, dude, that's awesome. Let's go. Let's fucking go, dude. Hell yeah. Hell yes. I'm on board with this. Israel, do it. Liberate Cyprus, please. Dude, listen. Some might say Cyprus was also a part of the greater Israeli project. And you can't have Cyprus without northern Cyprus, which is occupied by the Turkish government and the Turkish military. You got to do it. Sorry. Oh, man. It's just, I found another page in the Bible that said this also belongs to Israel. Sucks to suck, guys. Yeah. Don't you remember in the book of Jonah where God promised Jonah the island he swam to on the whale? Yeah. Yeah, Hamas is there, I heard. Bro, my dad was saying that he saw in Xiaohongshu that Israel wants to attack Turkey. I thought it was fake news. I mean, it's kind of fake news, yes. It's just like posturing. Look, all I'm saying is Israel has a right to defend itself. And by that, I mean Israel has a right to all of Cyprus, okay? It's not Greek. It's not Turkey. It's Israeli, okay? That's right. You thought this was a conflict between Turkey and its claims and the Turkish citizens that live in northern Cyprus versus like the Greek citizens of Greek Cypriot background living in the rest of Cyprus. No, it was actually, they were all Israeli. And by that, I mean everyone there has to leave immediately, evacuate immediately because it has to be Israel. How many countries can Israel go to war at once? I mean, I don't know, however many it pleases. And why are you asking that question? Are you Hamas? Are you anti-Semitic? What's happening? Hello, I am Israeli Cypriot, and this is my Cyprus. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes total sense to me. Yeah. Where else can gay Israelis get married if not Cyprus? Very unpolitical take. Exactly. I'm apolitical. Israel has a right to occupy and take over Cyprus. And if you think that that's not the case, then you are unimaginably anti-Semitic. It's a peak anti-Semitism. They need to take Cyprus now. Okay?
Ensure that there is hope of a two-state solution for the future. And therefore...
Yeah. Turns out Cyprus was just another fight between good and evil. Good being Israel, of course. Never evil.
I've always been interested in what is going to make a material difference. How can we work with our allies most effectively? And that's why this comes as a part of a peace plan that we've been working on for some considerable time, an 8-part plan, which I've already spoken to Germany and France about and many other countries. So this should be in the context of answering the question, yes, how do you get humanitarian aid in at speed and at volume, but also what happens the day after a much-needed ceasefire so that we can get to a long-term peaceful outcome. And I think that that is the context in which you should see the decision that I've made today.
Yes. politically expedient. And breaking news, guys, you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked at what Benjamin Netanyahu's response is to Keir Starmer saying this like wishy-washy, too little, too late bullshit. Are you ready? Are you ready? It's going to be so different than everything he said so far. Let's take a look.
Breaking news. We've had a response from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to the UK's decision earlier today to recognise the state of Palestine in September, unless Israel takes what Sir Keir Starmer has called substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister has put this on social media. Starmer rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow. Appeasement towards jihadist terror.
Oh, he's Hamas. Oh, God, dude. Why didn't I think of that? That's brilliant. That's such a good counter, man. That is so unexpected. That's so unexpected. I did not see that coming. Benjamin Netanyahu is a man of few words. And by that, I mean he just says one word. It's just Hamas. Wife not putting out, you are Hamas. You are a Hamas terrorist. You must be stopped. You are appeasing the jihadist terrorists by not putting out tonight. That's it. He's got one fucking speed, baby. One speed. You are doing Hamas jihadist terror.
Terrorists always fails. It will fail you too. It will not happen. That's the response there from the Prime Minister of Israel to the UK's decision to recognise Palestine as a state in September, unless Israel takes what the Prime Minister has called, the Prime Minister of the UK.
So, go ahead. Hello.
Hi, Mr. President.
Can we ask about that? Can we ask about that, please? On Gaza, Sir Keir Starmer
Oh, also, this lame ass said the same thing.
has just announced the UK will recognise Palestinian sovereignty in September if Israel does not commit to a ceasefire, ease the suffering in Gaza, and commit to a long-term solution that would deliver the two-state solution in the Middle East. Did you know that was coming? What is your response?
We never discussed it, surprisingly. It was never really discussed. Maybe a little bit at the news conference, but he was sort of discussing it with you. We never did discuss it, and we have no view on that. We're going to get a lot of money to the area so they can get some food. He's going to also. I think the European Union is going to put up money too for food, and hopefully it's going to be properly distributed, and it will be. I think it will be. We have some pretty good response on people for the distribution of the food. We want to take it one thing at a time. They need food, and they need people to be able to get them the food.
But to follow up on that, I mean, is there any use at all in pressuring Israel now to come to some sort of longer-term solution, or at least
you could make the case that you're rewarding people that you're rewarding.
You could make the case that you're rewarding Hamas by letting Palestinian children eat food. You are rewarding Hamas.
Hamas, if you do that.
Hamas loves when Palestinians eat food, and that's an evil thing that they like. We can't reward it. We can't reward the children with baby formula. Hamas loves baby formula. They're the evil ones, of course. Remember, the evil ones in this conflict are the ones who want the babies to get baby formula. And the good guys, the greatest guys, are the ones stopping babies from getting baby formula.
And I don't think they should be rewarded. So I'm not in that camp, to be honest. We'll let you know where we are in, but I am not in that camp.
Mr. President,
because if you do that, you really are rewarding Hamas, and I'm not about to do that.
Mr. President.
Yeah, he does. He don't want to reward Hamas.
Things about it. So we'll see what happens.
On Gaza, last week you were rather dismissive of President Macron when he recognised the Palestinian state. Today you're saying you don't really...
That's his opinion. You know, he can have an opinion. It doesn't mean I have to agree. Emmanuel's a good man. He works hard. Got a lot to say about everything.
But now you're saying you're not taking a view on Sir Keir Starmer's announcement. Does that mean your view is evolving?
I guess Starmer is doing the same as Macron, right? He's basically, is he saying the same thing? I think so. Essentially, they're saying the same thing. And that's okay. But, it doesn't mean I have to agree.
Mr. President, you mentioned setting up food centers. When can we expect to see
Very
those
soon.
food centers?
Yeah, very soon. So we sent $60 million. That's a lot of money for food, a lot of money that can take care of people for a long time. And we want to make sure it's being spent properly. And part of the spending is the distribution. If a lot of money's been sent by other countries, but nothing compared to us. But a lot of things have been stolen. They send money, they send food, and Hamas steals it. So it's a tricky little game. But
the good guys are Israel here. The bad guys are Hamas. Just remember that. Yeah, the good guys are the Israeli Foreign Ministry undertaking what is sure to be a bulletproof PR strategy, publicizing photos of starving Palestinians in Gaza and saying because they have illnesses, Israel's massive restrictions on aid somehow have nothing to do with their condition. A real man, a fake claim. 41-year-old Mohammed al-Hassana didn't die of starvation. He suffered from untreated diabetes and died from complications of severe hypercatabolism. But this image is now being used to smear Israel. Oh my God, they're literally doing it. A real child, a fake story. 11-month-old Sela Barbach isn't starving. He suffers from a pre-existing chronic gastrointestinal illness unrelated to the war. But global media uses photo to push a false narrative. Oh my God. They're literally saying we're starving and denying aid to literally fucking babies with illnesses. I don't understand why they think this is a good way to defend Israel. It's so crazy. This works on some people, by the way. Megaphonics, I hate to break it to you. This isn't working on them. They don't care. You understand? Like, if this quote unquote works on you, then you're not looking for a reason for this to work anyway. Like, your parents weren't in the margins is what I'm saying. Your parents are already unconditionally and fully on, on Israel's side. This doesn't work on people in the margins who are like, I saw a story about a starving child, but now Israel's saying that this starving child also had other illnesses. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's not going to work on them. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is basically like saying they didn't die because they were in Auschwitz. They died because they got typhus. You really have become Hitler's children, says Sol Khan. This is not even effective propaganda, is my point. It's ineffective propaganda. Meanwhile, here's what Israel's take is. Israel is banning journalists from flying over Gaza with airdrop operations from filming anything from above after blocking them for 22 months from entering Gaza on the ground. Israel threatened to halt all airdrops if any journalists film from the flight's windows.
So the Jordanians have passed on a message from the Israelis. The Israelis don't want us to film out of the window at the devastation inside Gaza. But I've spent 10 minutes looking at it with my own eyes. And I can tell you that communities in the north of Gaza that I knew well, very vibrant, tens of thousands of people living hard lives, but actually with a remarkable human spirit, are flat. There's nothing left of them. Now, if you've been watching satellite pictures, it won't come as any surprise. But seeing it is really something. Israel will not allow...
This is why Israel can never do a ceasefire. Do you understand? Israel cannot do a ceasefire because that guy is going to go into Gaza. Okay? When that guy goes into Gaza, he's going to cover Gaza. And then your parents are going to inevitably come to that conclusion that this is a genocide as well. There is no hiding this truth at that point. We all are aware of what's going on. The real fear here is your parents will be aware of what's going on. Okay? You understand? That's a major part of the reason why this ceasefire will never take place, or they don't want the ceasefire to actually take place, because once it does, and they realize that this is the greatest evil of all time, okay, equivalent to what the Nazis did, then they're gonna work to disband it. They're gonna advocate to disband it. It's indefensible. Even your racist parents who hate Palestinians, who think they're all fucking barbaric monsters, are going to literally come to that conclusion and be like, okay, we were wrong.
Reporters like myself to enter Gaza to report the story. And they don't want us to see it, to film it anyway, from above either. So the Jordanians have passed on a message.
Mega is in pro-Israel circles. My parents would believe this BS too, but it's not like it's not the majority. Stop assuming insane Jewish races are the majority of Americans. No, I know. That's why I said that's just like a you thing. No, I know. I would say that from my own personal involvement in like pro-Israel Jewish communities, I literally live in a pro-Israel Jewish community. I would say that it's a lot of the pro-Israel Jews that were, constantly talking about October 7 have moved away from talking about Israel at all. And there's like a sense of shame, at least, where they're just like, maybe we shouldn't say anything. Like even the most like pro-Israel Jews, for the most part, don't say too much about the current conditions. And I think that for like we see and hear like some of the most outspoken Zionists, like ultra Zionists out there, and assume that like the rest of the country is like that. It's not reflective of the rest of the country. I think most people, even people who want to maintain a pro-Israel position, are at least like quiet because they know how fucking untenable and indefensible the situation is. It's not shame, it's muted resentment. Yeah, that's a better way to put it, for sure. We have appended an editor's note to a story about Mohammed Zakaria al-Mutawaq, a child in Gaza who was diagnosed with severe malnutrition. After publication, the Times learned that he also had a pre-existing health problem. Read more below. Yeah, Israel is so fucking shameless that they get these fucking publications that already do unlimited propaganda for Israel to like concede on stuff like this. Remember when I went on BBC World right after the Al-Shifa hospital? The bombing of, Al-Ahli Hospital. The bombing of Al-Ahli Hospital, and BBC had just apologized for it. And I straight up told BBC World, you should have never apologized for that. What are you, crazy? Your initial assessment is correct. And Israel has refused to give any information that actually says your initial assessment that it was Israel's bombing campaign that did this. Israel has not disproven that at all. Placing this giant editor's note after relentless propaganda of the Israeli government to plant in their readers' mind against the work of its own journalists the idea that the Israeli government could be right and the famine in Gaza isn't as bad as everyone is saying it is. Do you agree that maybe the average Israeli is not aware about the death and destruction because of media and propaganda? Maybe. But it doesn't matter. The average Israeli's position on this is so irrelevant. The average American's position, I would say, is more relevant than the average Israeli's position on this. Because without America's say-so, without America's go-ahead, there is no Israeli genocide. And I don't think that the average Israeli is oblivious to what goes on in Gaza. I think that they see it. I think that they like it. And I think that they want it to continue for the most part. I think a lot of people don't understand the proximity to Gaza in general. It's like 50 miles down the road, to like one of the most populated areas in Israel. It's like 50 miles away. It's not that far. They can see it.
We're going to make sure we have some very good people. They're going to be watching it.
Who is going to be running those food centers for you, and what kind of oversight
well,
can we expect?
We're going to be dealing with Israel, and we think they can do a good job of it. And they.
Nothing is mostly being said or talked about.
So for the past 22 months, we have witnessed...
Yeah, Israeli NGOs are now coming out and saying it's a genocide too. Not that it fucking matters. Like I said, it shouldn't be up to like an Israeli NGO to make this assessment, but even Israeli NGOs are making this assessment.
Unprecedented levels of civilian killings, of deliberate starvation, forced mass displacement, and the total destruction of most infrastructure necessary for human and social existence. The people of Gaza have been displaced, bombed, and starved, left completely stripped of their humanity and rights. The first part of our report described exactly that, the practices through which the first part of our report describes exactly that, the practices through which the genocide is being carried out and their devastating consequences on the ground. The second part of the report, in the second part of the report, we describe the conditions that made it possible for the Israeli regime to become a regime that commits genocide.
The president also made headlines.
All right, let's talk about Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell asked Supreme Court to overturn her conviction. Wait, what is this? Holy hell, Senator Cory Booker just detonated the Senate floor, screaming match, finger pointing, full-on political exorcism. He torched his own party for being weak, said they might deserve to lose, and warned Democrats, if you're looking the other way from Trump's actions, that's complicity with an authoritarian leader. Then came the haymaker. Come at me, you'll have to take it up with me and God. Booker says Dems are sleepwalking into fascism while pretending bipartisanship is still real.
The knee to this president.
I can't do this. It is going to make me go fucking ballistic. I cannot. I have, oh my God. This man literally had Benjamin Netanyahu's hands directly up his asshole, okay? Like a fucking flesh puppet only a couple weeks ago. Suck my dick, Cory Booker. Fuck you. Booker is still laying into Democrats on the floor, practically yelling. The text I'm getting from Dems about this whole boy, people are pissed at Booker. Fuck this guy. Fuck Cory Booker.
Lines on the Jeffrey Epstein case yesterday, once again calling the whole controversy a hoax. It comes amid a push by Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, to have her conviction overturned. She is now asking for the Supreme Court to intervene. Scott McFarland reports.
Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, is urging the Supreme Court to step in and overturn her sex trafficking conviction on grounds she was unlawfully prosecuted. Her attorney, David Marcus, went a step further Monday, issuing a statement calling President Trump a deal maker, then saying they're appealing to the president himself to recognize how profoundly unjust it is to scapegoat Ghislaine Maxwell for Epstein's crimes. CBS News legal analyst Caroline Polisi says Maxwell's interview with the Department of Justice last week about Epstein could also be part of a push for leniency in exchange for her cooperation.
Maxwell's defense attorney is not hiding the fact that he would like to receive some kind of benefit, some kind of potentially a pardon, a clemency from President Trump.
For the second time in a week, the president refused to rule out a pardon for Maxwell Monday.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it.
And again dismiss the whole Epstein investigation and related files.
If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax.
But even some of Trump's fiercest allies disagree.
This is not a hoax, in other words.
Oh, it's not a hoax. Of course not. I mean, there are real victims here.
Meanwhile, Democrats are criticizing the president for using the word privilege to describe the island where Epstein lived and committed crimes.
I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down.
It's notable, despite the Department of Justice's meeting with Maxwell last week, it's urging the Supreme Court to reject her petition. If the High Court does agree to hear the case, it most likely won't do so until the next term, meaning, Nate, a decision wouldn't be handed down for months.
All right, and we will stay tuned. Scott, thank you.
Now to a CBS News investigation into the death of Jeffrey Epstein. The missing minute, you might have heard or read something about this recently, in the surveillance footage at the jail where the convicted sex offender died in 2019 may not be missing after all. The Justice Department released nearly 11 hours of that footage last month, including this moment where the time code jumps forward 1 minute before midnight. A source tells CBS News the FBI actually has a copy of the video without that cut. Now, it's unclear why it wasn't released originally. Our investigation found other inconsistencies with the video as well. To share his new reporting on this, Scott McFarland joins me now. Scott, what do we know?
Our CBS News investigation led by Dan Rutnick finds that there are some issues with whatever that video was that was released by the U.S. Department of Justice. Was it an original or was it a copy? Forensic reviews of the video indicate it was a copy of a video, not the raw original thing. That's a pressing issue because the deputy FBI director said they were going to release the raw video. There are certain moments where you see a cursor on the screen of the video, the way you would if you were recording it maybe off your phone from a screen that was showing the initial video. There's metadata and indications of edits in the video that this is not the original, raising the question, is there a missing minute or is there a missing minute from the edit of the footage? There's other concerns as well, including consistencies that may be called into question based on what the Department of Justice said about this footage. Take a look.
Epstein was held at the Metropolitan Corrections Center in Lower Manhattan in a unit separate from the general population known as the Special Housing Unit, or SHU. The unit has 3 wings, each with 2 levels. Epstein was held in the upstairs L tier of his wing. That tier is accessed by a set of stairs from the central common area. Directly adjacent to those stairs is the officers' station, where on-duty corrections officers spend most of their time. The Inspector General report says several cameras in the unit were streaming a live feed to a remote location in the prison, but no one was watching them. Malfunctioning equipment meant only one camera recorded the general area. That camera captured part of the common area, including the officers' station and a sliver of the staircase leading to Epstein's cell. The footage begins at 7:40 p.m. the night before Epstein's death. You can see staff and inmates moving about, preparing for the nightly lockdown. That's the officers' station in the background. Only 2 employees have been publicly identified. Tova Noel, a corrections officer pulling a double shift that began at 4 p.m., and Michael Thomas, a materials handler who won't arrive until midnight. Epstein is seen for the first and only time on camera at 7:49 p.m. when the Department of Justice said he was escorted to his cell from another wing of the unit. It's important to note here, you don't actually see Epstein ascend the stairwell to his cell block.
Pressed for comment from the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Office of Inspector General, which did its own review of this matter, and they didn't respond to our request for comment. Major, if there is a full video, unedited, without a missing minute, it has not been released.
And this is not incidental to the broader conversation among interested parties in the Jeffrey Epstein matter. Online, this has been gone over and over as people try to deduce or understand what isn't or is there, what they can glean in terms of transparency about Epstein's death.
So much of what gave this oxygen over the past few years is open-ended question.
Remember, we don't even have the actual fucking footage to his goddamn cell because those cameras were mysteriously down. So the footage that they actually doctored was not even the footage that's outside of his cell. Remember that.
So conspiracy theories feed off of unanswered questions. That's the fuel. And what you have here is a bunch of questions that haven't been answered. So if the Trump administration is trying to put this issue and this controversy behind them, pending open questions are just oxygen for that fire.
An important investigation. Scott McFarland with all the crucial details. I thank you very much.
Mr. President, on the Wall Street Journal case, lawyers are seeking to depose Rupert Murdoch, Can you say what the lawyers hope to get out of that?
No, we're going to see. It's in the lawyers' hands. I've been treated very unfairly by the Wall Street Journal and everything. I mean, I don't know. They even hired people from the Washington Post, third-rate reporters, gossip-type reporters. It's all gossip. And, you know, I've been treated badly by the Wall Street Journal. I would have assumed that Rupert Murdoch controls it, but, you know, maybe does, maybe doesn't. They are talking to us about doing something, but we'll see what happens. Maybe they would like us to drop that. And so we'll see.
Does that mean they're settling us?
Yeah, they want to settle it.
With money involved?
He's treated us wrong. I mean, you know, when I get treated unfairly, I do things about it. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, God.
This is Donald Trump's phone number in Jeffrey Epstein's personal little black book from the 1990s. In 2021, Business Insider obtained an address book no one had ever seen before.
Jeffrey Epstein got away with what he got away with because of who was in his address book.
What's interesting for us about this book is a new cast of characters who we didn't previously know had interactions with or did business with him.
While the Trump administration says it won't disclose more files on Epstein, the older address book reminds us of Epstein's vast connections to prominent figures, including Melania Trump's best friend, Christopher Cuomo's wife, and an advisor in the first Trump administration.
Our first thought was to just do whatever we could to verify that it was real. We've obtained a copy of an address book that we believe belonged to Jeffrey Epstein, and your name and contact information are listed in the book.
I'm a reporter for Insider. I'm just calling everybody who's in this address book who has not previously been publicly associated with Jeffrey Epstein.
That's crazy. Bro, you get a call like that, you're like, nope, wrong number. I don't know who the fuck you're talking about.
Epstein. We need to make sure it was a real artifact that really represented something about Jeffrey Epstein and his connections to people.
The story is not one that sounds exactly believable. Someone dropped Jeffrey Epstein's address book in the 90s and now belongs to some guy who lives on a farm in Vermont.
Yeah, I'm hitting that no habla inglés.
I'm very careful not to put my fingerprints on the book, not to put any sort of DNA or hair or anything like that. My name is Christopher Halali. Where should I look? I currently live on my wife's farm. As a student of national security issues, imperialism, I was fascinated by the Jeffrey Epstein case. There are names that are highlighted, and I think one of the most notable highlighted names is former President Donald Trump.
My name is Denise Ondeko, ta-da! And I believe I found the book sometime in the 90s. Walking along Fifth Avenue, and I just noticed a small black book on the sidewalk.
So you're pretty sure that it was somewhere between 54?
Yes, it could have been here or there.
We have spoken extensively with Denise, and we found her story to be credible.
I saw the book, picked it up, glanced through it. Damn. It was filled with names like Kennedy, Rockefeller, Trump, etc. And it was like, whoa, this is bizarre. So I kept it for the New York City artifact that it was.
Did you know who Jeffrey Epstein was at the time?
No. When I rediscovered the book last year, it was like, holy it's Jeffrey Epstein.
A Manhattan billionaire arrested yesterday on federal sex trafficking.
I think it's a little crazy that someone seemingly dropped it, but who knows? It's a bit suspicious, but
charges.
Accusations from indecent exposure to inappropriate touching to rape.
I went to tips at New York Times. I sent something to Rachel Maddow. I just figured nobody was interested. Come the end of November, I really needed brakes for my car and I didn't have enough money. And I thought, what the hell? You know, you, Jeffrey Epstein, you know, you paid for my brakes. So I put it on eBay.
It was right there for everybody to see. Most people would think it's a fake or a forgery. I took the risk. When I received the book in the mail, my heart was nearly jumping out of my chest. You know, I felt like Indiana Jones. It's a dark book. It's a book that I think has a lot of suffering behind it, a lot of pain, a lot of evil, some would say. I felt that it was important for people to see who Epstein knew and what sort of network of power was behind him.
this is this is a little bit of an odd cat, a little bit of an odd fellow. Isn't he is he the ACP guy? I feel like I know his name. I feel like I've heard his name before. Halali is a Vermont social studies teacher. Halali, a Vermont social studies teacher who ran unsuccessfully for Congress as a member of the Communist Party in 2020, now serves as the American Communist Party's international secretary. Yeah.
Right now I'm packaging the book for forensic analysis and handing it off to a team of journalists. If it comes back and it's not authentic, it's a pretty awesome forgery, I have to say.
One of the moments in the public waking up to the magnitude of his crimes was the publication in 2015 of an address book belonging to Jeffrey Epstein. And what was stunning about it was it contained the names of Donald Trump and Mick Jagger, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton. And it sort of woke people up to the fact that this was a guy who had access to the halls of power.
Our reporting also found about 220 new names that didn't appear in this other address book.
If someone were to concoct a fake book to trick journalists, they would start by taking those names from the other public little black book and putting them in this one. So we start by sort of correlating the names, and then we just started calling people in the book whose names have not been previously associated with Jeffrey Epstein.
Hello?
Hi, I'm trying to reach Elena Kayem.
This is she?
Hi, I'm calling for Suzanne Urcha. Would you be able to connect me with her?
For who?
I'm trying to reach Joan Severance.
We don't currently represent Joan. The number you dialed is not in service.
I'm trying to reach Michael Cutlip.
This is he?
Elena Barmakova.
Who's calling?
I'm working on a story about an address book
That we believe belonged to Jeffrey Epstein.
Do you mind if I'm recording this call?
I do mind.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah, I haven't seen or spoken to Jeffrey since the late 90s.
For them to say, yes, I knew him in the 90s, gives credence to the idea that the book is real.
It's not the case that everybody who was in his address book was an enabler of Jeffrey Epstein. It's more adding to the body of knowledge to keep chipping away at the mystery.
She was not interested in speaking.
These are some of the
why.
prominent names we reached out to. None of them had ever been publicly associated with Epstein before.
Suzanne Urcha, Melania Trump's best friend. She later married Woody Johnson, who now owns the New York Jets.
Carl Icahn, special advisor to Donald Trump during his presidency.
Christina Grieven, the wife of Christopher Cuomo.
Jill Harth accused Donald Trump of sexual assault.
Stephen Ratner led Barack Obama's efforts to resuscitate Detroit.
Marty Peretz, longtime mentor to former Vice President Al Gore. Les Gelb was a legendary New York Times columnist. Sandy Warner was the chairman and CEO of JP Morgan until 2000. Billionaire John Katzimatidis, who told us that he offered Epstein a ride and Epstein sent him a 3-foot bottle of champagne and thanks. And this just goes to show that in the 1990s, he was sort of cultivating a much larger orbit that we can see evidence later on.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
We also engaged the services of a forensic examiner who's familiar with authenticating documents.
I was cautious because I didn't want to cross over into an area that the FBI was investigating. My name is Dennis Ryan, and I'm a forensic document examiner. I'm confident that the book is probably circa 1995 to 2000. One of the factors was the Gestetner imprint that's on the Velo bind. Their organization was certainly out of production by 1998 to 2000. It would be very difficult to make up a book with that imprint. The most important thing is the change in the area code.
So here's Donald Trump's entry in the 1990s address book. You can see that his Palm Beach phone numbers feature a 407 area code. Now, if we look at Trump's entry in the address book from the early 2000s, you can see that he has the same phone numbers listed for Palm Beach, but with a different area code, 561, and that area code was introduced in 1996. Jeffrey Epstein is still such a mystery. Over a year after he's died,
accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein is dead.
Jeffrey Epstein's attorneys questioning whether his death was a suicide.
I think my biggest takeaway is that Epstein had an extremely large sphere of influence, and we're not even sure about the true extent of it.
I think this book elaborates on that in a different era, a different time, and with some different people that we didn't know were a part of that circle that eventually became a part of the reason that Jeffrey Epstein could get away with raping and abusing women and girls. And I think it's important to keep in mind how power is able to avoid accountability. And the more we can remember what Epstein's actions represent, the more we can prevent people from escaping accountability now and in the future.
What a weird turn of events, how serendipitous the whole thing has played out. Unbelievable. I just remember having that thought, should I keep this? If it was a heavy something or other, I probably would have tossed it.
I think it's an interesting story, you know. One book with the FBI, one book on the farm. It's fascinating.
Business Insider reposted this exact video that they released 4 years ago. I seriously question their integrity if they had this book all this time and haven't talked about it for years and have not done any digging. You question the integrity of Business Insider? Yeah, no shit, dude. By the way, there's more on the Trump train. Breaking news, FBI has a version of the surveillance video filmed near Jeffrey Epstein's prison block on the night of his death that, unlike the version released to the public, is not missing a minute of footage, even though they originally said it was. Wasn't the explanation that the video equipment is old and resets every night, so no footage exists of that missing minute? Also, there was more time missing in the released video per Wired. CBS is claiming that the released video is likely a screen capture that was sped up for some reason, offering one explanation for the gap in time.
Definitively.
Here is Pam Bondi saying the minute doesn't exist.
You on that, and the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And
like, I don't care about this missing minute that much. I don't think it's like the big fucking the big revelation will come from this missing minute. It could be a number of different reasons. It's just like, but as is the case with everything else, their response invites more curiosity. Their response invites additional scrutiny because they respond in a really weird, uncharacteristic way if you are innocent. Their response is the response of a guilty man. So much so that it has actually made me reconsider my original stance of like, maybe Donald Trump is not that involved with Jeffrey Epstein post 2003. Do you see what I mean?
what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every year, every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein. Back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video.
None of this makes sense. Are the cameras operating on different security systems? Why does one reset, the other one doesn't? And why do people who work in the field say this isn't a common feature? From the Daily Beast article. Yeah, it's just like a very weird, very strange way to deal with this. And it's making me think that they're more guilty than than I previously assumed they were. There's also this side of the story. Real Donald Trump says he ended his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein because the pedophile stole underage victim Virginia Giuffre from his Mar-a-Lago spa. This is audio only from the White House, or not from the White House, but like it was released because he was on Air Force One, where Trump says people were taken out of the spa hired by Epstein. I told him we don't want you taking our people, whether it's spa or not spa. He did it again. I said out of here. Was one of the stolen people Virginia Giuffre? I think so. He stole her.
So, Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. I'm just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them young women? Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
What did they do? In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people would take.
Bro, you're talking about one of the most notorious sex trafficking victims that was literally trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago as a minor. What are you saying, man? Like, he's incapable, dude. Look at it. I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah. What did they do? In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas.
I had one of the best spas. Some of the best miners working at the spa. Jeffrey Epstein liked it so much because they were the best miners working at the spa. That's right. No other spa has miners like mine. Believe it. Believe it. Are we sure it's not a deep fake? No.
Spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago, and people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told them, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want them taking people. And
dude. What's so insane about this is, bro, this isn't in 1997 or in 2003. This is in 2025. Why are you still saying it like that? Like, it's crazy. Motherfucker, it is July 29th, 2025. Jeffrey Epstein's been dead since 2019. And you're literally still acting like you're mad that he stole your clients. Or not your clients, sorry. Stole your work staff. Like, what do you mean? Dog, the people that you're talking about were sex trafficked underage by Jeffrey Epstein. How is that your number one gripe? Also, yeah, why were minors working in this like high-end spa, supposedly the best spa? That's already weird, man. And he's like, those were the best miners. Those were the best miners. Nobody else has got miners like me at my spa. Like, that's what you're mad about? Jeffrey Epstein was out competing you? Here, it's not AI. Look.
Were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
was some of them.
Were some of them young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young.
Yeah.
What did they do?
In the spa.
Jobs.
In the spa.
Yeah, it's people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people.
Dog, they weren't hired by him. They were sex trafficked. Like, again, we know this. We know this because of the 2008 conviction, which includes one of the most famous victims, Virginia Joffrey, that was trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. He didn't hire people from your spa. I don't know why those people were working at the spa to begin with. But he didn't like steal those employees from you. He sex trafficked them. He groomed and sex trafficked them. Very strange way to complain about this thing. Truly shocking, even for Trump. Even by Trump standards, this is a shocking way to talk about this. Because his defense is exactly like saying Jeffrey Dahmer stole my lunch. Yeah. I was going to eat my own parents, and then Jeffrey Dahmer stole my mother and ate her instead. I was going to do it. My mother gone.
From the spa, I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know.
Yeah, she's dead, man. She died recently. Also, she was a child. She was literally a child, a little child. She was 16 years old. What the hell is happening? Actually insane. Anyway. I don't understand why Donald Trump finds a way to fucking incriminate himself every single time. Like, anytime he tries to talk about this situation, he just like further incriminates himself. He comes across so fucking weird. Anyway, let's move on from that to Sydney Sweeney's jeans campaign, which created major backlash. Okay, I know Jay Mershon really wants me to cover the story. He's been losing his fucking mind. Here, let's take a look.
Look amazing.
Sydney Sweeney's new jeans campaign is sparking major backlash.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My jeans are blue.
The campaign has a clever slogan: Sydney Sweeney has great genes. That's genes with a J. But many believe the implication is that Sydney Sweeney's genes with a G are superior.
My body's composition.
I mean, it is. That is the double entendre, yes. That is the double entendre. It's a weird double entendre to make. And I think it spells that I think this is like, a company actively trying to lean into like white nationalists and eugenicist arguments to fucking advocate for people to purchase their product.
Is determined by my genes. Hey, eyes up here.
Sydney Sweeney's